So then that person that stands on the stage that has Parkinson's disease or had Parkinson's disease, that's a 76-year-old female that couldn't blow her nose, couldn't swallow, couldn't chew her food, couldn't stand up. One moment, running into the divine, and next thing you know, she's on the stage telling her story. And she's not young, and she's not buffed, and she doesn't look like a vegan, and she's not dressed like everybody that cares about that. She's just, you would walk right past her. But when she's talking and I'm looking out in the audience, I'm looking at 1,500 people leaning in. Nobody has got their eyes off of her because she's the example of truth. And that's the 4-minute mile. Puncture right through there. That's a piercing through a layer of consciousness. And that leaves a footprint in consciousness. And there's someone in the audience with Parkinson's disease looking at her going, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And here comes the 4-minute mile. As soon as it's broken, the next person does it. So by the end of the event, there's so much love in the room. There's so much energy in the room because people feel so incredible that they're not attached to their past any longer. They're so connected to they're so connected to their future that they stop telling the story of their past. They're telling the story of their future. They're no longer believing in their past. They're believing in their future. They're no longer romancing their past. They're in a romance with their future. And if oxytocin levels are up and it's the chemical that bonds, you're going to believe in that future you're creating with all of your heart, it better be opened and activated. And we're going to measure it. And I'm going to tell you, you're doing it or you're not. And so then when people start realizing it was never about that, it was about who they became, that we overcome that week. We overcome. I give people numerous opportunities to get beyond themselves, numerous opportunities to connect with themselves. I want them to get frustrated. I want them to get impatient. I want them to get overly analytical because that's the end of their belief. And then finally, when they finally make up their mind to let go and just do it, and they run into that feeling, they run into that experience, they're all in. You think they don't want a sports car anymore. They want that, whatever that was. And if it comes with a transcendental moment, when they come back to their senses from that inner experience, their spectrum of reality is broadened. They're seeing things they had never seen before because their brain wasn't wired to see it, but it didn't come from the environment, it came from their inner environment. That transcendental moment now is producing a feeling, a frequency that is so unusual. It's so much joy, so much bliss, so much ecstasy. I've watched people have to stop it because it's way bigger than them. Now, I would consider that a good problem to have. You measure that person's immune system. You measure the changes in their heart rate variability, not a little amplitude, huge amplitudes. That person is feeling a lot of love. And imagine it's a man. Imagine a man whose heart is open that wide. They sob with the freedom to be able to not care what they look like. We're trying to fit into some paradigm or mold. So then a new consciousness in that footprint is emerging, and we have scientific evidence. I can tell you can make your brain work better in a week. You can make your heart more coherent. You can change the field around your body. You can strengthen your immune system. You can change your gene expression. You can lengthen your life. You can create so many oxidative changes in your cells. We have great research to prove that. That's the truth of who you are. That's the truth, that miracle within you. That evidence is the backbone that gives people permission to try it out. It's the language. Then you see someone standing on the stage telling their story in testimony, whether it's stage 4 cancer, whether it's MS, whether it's blind people seeing, deaf people hearing. You can't go back to being the same person after that. Evidence is the loudest voice. And so then when we begin to make those inroads and the footprint exists in consciousness and you're witnessing it in 3-dimensional reality, the illusion of limitation begins to change. And now all you want to do is you crave the unknown. So people in our work don't get up in the morning and go, oh God, I got to do my meditation today. No, they're not doing that. Their body is waking them up saying, get out of bed, because they don't want the magic to end. And when you start seeing The gap between cause and effect, thought and experience closing down. You're moving closer to the divine. And when that happens, all the things you thought you want, you no longer want, because the overcoming process leading to who you become, nobody can take that away from you. So we practice it in our seated meditations. We practice it standing and walking. You better walk as it, and you better be able to embody it and practice doing it with your eyes open. So when you return back to your life, when you walk from your house to your car, you're walking in the energy of your future. And if you keep doing that, it's going to become a habit. And people are going to start looking at you going, something's different about you. You know why? Because you're no longer showing up equal to their memory of you. Something's different about you. You're unpredictable. It's not what you're saying any longer. It's who you are. And so that person then is off their timeline. They're not headed to that same future. And all I want to do in a week-long event is bump everybody off that timeline into a new future. Some people, huge degrees. Stage 4 cancers, tumors disappearing. You listen to that story of the person on the stage. Your next meditation, you are not going to go half in. You're going to go all in. And that's all I want, is I want people to go all in. I want to provide people with my greatest understanding of the truth, and then numerous opportunities to experience it, nothing more. And when the magic starts to happen, it's way bigger than me. It's beyond my control. All I want to do is provide the environment where they feel safe enough to begin to create.
That's the beauty of what this is all about. And at the same time, it contrasts with a story that we've been conditioned to believe, which is that we do not have that power. That if something happens, if that cancer goes away, spontaneous remission. It was a random chance event and you had nothing to do with it, because you can't have anything to do with it, because that's what capital S science, or capital M medicine perhaps, has been saying for so long. And then you start to witness it and you start to understand, and you look at all of those clinical studies about the placebo effect, and you understand that this has been measured and is continually measured in every clinical trial we have, that the mind can influence the body. And what you're doing is you're taking it to that ultimate level of how much can the mind influence the body, and measuring it and showing it. And you're having the felt experience of seeing people who have done it. And you can read whether someone's full of shit or whether they're in tune, just like you can tell if a guitar's out of tune and it's playing, you're like, something's not quite right. You can tell that these people have gone through this experience, and it begins to shift your understanding of what's possible, and then allows you to step into that sovereignty, say, wow, what am I capable of? And that is a beautiful place to be. So for people who want to understand a bit about some of this methodology, it is a formula that you have, going in there, and it's the matter of breath work. Starts with some breath work, typically, not always.
Pretty intense breath work.
Pretty intense breath work. So there's the breath work, then there's the meditation, and then there's the cultivation of that emotion combined with your vision of the future.